Hello and welcome back to the channel, Cali Legends Media. Before I begin, I want to welcome all the new subscribers. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. And thank you to all the subscribers and the people even that just click by and watch the videos and hit those like buttons. I really appreciate you. And thank you for hitting those hypes also. Really appreciate it. It's a good way to support the channel without it costing anything. Okay, so basically Blue Devil called me out to do a video, kind of a response video on American Cholo and the video that he did, because there's two different opinions being put into one video. So I'm just going to go over this issue real quick, and it's something that is affecting not so much the Chicano culture or the Mexican culture, but the gang culture, okay? Now, American Cholo made a video saying that pretty much in that category, in the gang and the Cholo culture, that the culture that we upheld and helped develop is being set aside, and the youngsters now are actually practicing more of a black approach, black terminology, black swag, the way they talk, all of that. And he opened up, American Cholo opened up his video saying that maybe the homies should change their names from like Smiley, Mouse, Thumper, and Lucky to Loke Dog and Spark Plug and Do Wop or whatever, and stop using the traditional names. I know, like in my barrio, if you see Smiley is a vato that's walking around with a smile on his face, even when he's sad. His mouth is just stuck with that, he just has this like fucking grin constantly. So they call him Smiley, Mouse might be a small, timid guy with his ears that stick out, they call him Mouse. Me, myself, they call me Lucky after my dad from Primera Flats, who was Lucky from Primera Flats. So usually a name's picked for homies that matches them. There's just not names that are off the wall, like somebody seen written on a wall, hey, let's call this homeboy Blackie. No, Blackie's probably some dark vato. You know what I'm saying? But he feels that maybe they should change their name to these black names that the black gang members use since they want to represent like a brother, It's bad enough with people in the black culture on YouTube saying that Mexicans are trying to be like them and are stealing their culture and all of that stuff. And then now this video pops up with kind of American Cholo kind of reinforcing what they've been saying. I don't agree with it for one reason, is because if you notice, our culture from the 80s and maybe early 90s is still alive. It's alive in the lowrider culture now. It's alive in China, Japan, different parts of the world have adapted to the Chicano culture. The tattoos, the hairstyles, the dress, So I don't think our cultures, at least our lowrider culture, that gangster look, is in any type of risk of getting lost. But there are a lot of gang members, especially those gang members that are growing up, like in South Central, in Watts, different parts, where where the cities are populated by both black and Mexican individuals. They hang around together, they visit each other's houses. They spend hours of the day together, some of them, especially if it's a Mexican in a black neighborhood or a black in a Mexican neighborhood. and they pick up each other's style, whether it be of dress or things that they say. Um, One of the things that was mentioned was like homies, you see them mostly on the internet during hood vlogs. Not so much. Well, I know in East LA, I don't see it. I don't see it that much. What I see is the kids like in junior high school talking like that, and I believe that a lot of them get it from watching maybe one of their favorite rappers, or they see somebody on one of these larger popular podcasts, and they like their style. They like, they like the way they're speaking, how they're representing, and they pick up on that lingo that they brought from whatever neighborhood that they were raised in. Okay, and I believe that's where a lot of that is coming from. It spreads like that. You could see that in all neighborhoods, gang culture, lowrider culture has changed little by little. Way back in the days, what they dress in, zoot suits. Then later on came red liners, with a Folsom cuff, shiny shoes, Imperials, French toast, biscuits, and way back in the days, you'd call your pants tramados, your shirt lisa, and your shoes were calcos. But that hasn't been used in a very long time. Why? Because it changed. It evolved, it developed, it changed. And, people start calling them kicks, their shoes kicks, just different terminology for different things. Back in the day, you'd say, "No, man, I ain't lying. What do you mean? Hey, I put that on the hood, homie. I put that on the barrio." Well, now they're saying I put that on everything. Dead homies. You know what I mean? It's like there's always a shift in the way people are speaking. Look at the haircuts, man. Guys are wearing Edgars. Way back in the days, it was more of a puffy kind of pompadour style. Hair going back with a ducktail in the back. Later on, it was a little shorter with the hair nets. And then there was a period where everybody was going bald. You'd go bald in prison for the easy maintenance, come out, and you'd shave your head, have your head tatted. And now you see these kids with Edgar haircuts. And don't think for 1 minute that these guys with Edgar haircuts and skinny jeans, which back in the 80s and 90s we would never wear, won't take your win. I've had run-ins with some that, they're quick to the draw, and they will pull on you. So I think this is kind of like a small issue. I don't think it's really going to change anything as far as the Chicano culture, the lowriding culture. The dress, the style is loved by many, even different countries of totally different languages. They're speaking Japanese, Chinese, but they're dressing like the way we dress, So, we talked about, on other videos, we had talked about the way the homies were talking and them always saying the N word, even with the A, or however the legal way supposedly of saying it. But it still was irritating to hear them talk that way, And it's still, I believe it's still mostly in neighborhoods that have members that come from those areas that grew up with blacks, hearing that talk, and adopting some of that style of speech, you know? Even some white people in some areas that are closely living with the blacks talk just like the blacks, you know? Exactly. And they're white, and it's not a race thing. It's just from being around each other and talking, they have their own they accent a certain way, and they have terminology, certain terms that they say that we don't hear down here, you know. Yeah, I think it's all part of this evolution. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the amount of gang members that end up in prison end up losing their lives at a young age before being able to create a family, buy a house, and enjoy life. You know, that hasn't changed. In fact, it probably is probably worse now than it's been in a very long time. And I think that should be the main concern when it comes to gangs, not the way they're dressing. Because you know what? Like I said, man, those people with Edgar haircuts, talking like this and that, dressing with them skinny jeans or whatever, you know, I've noticed that a lot of the Chicanos that are in the black gangs, they're wearing more like designer clothing and stuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, yeah, of course not. They're not down here dressing the way we dressed, you know, and the way some people still dress. You know, things have changed, and that's something that has changed. I believe from growing up with different races and from the internet, and not just YouTube, but all of the different platforms. You know, there's people all over that young kids watch, and they pick up on things. You know, but as far as losing that culture that I remember growing up in, those of us who have tasted it and experienced it find it difficult to leave, you know. And when we go and we cruise our cars, or you know, we go out somewhere to a car show or something, you know, we're more likely to dress comfortable in some street clothes, you know, or if we're going to get dressed up, you know, it's going to be more old school Bonnaroo, you know what I mean? Style, sharp, you know, iron, crease, you know, maybe with a hat, you know. And the kids, they're not feeling that, you know. They're going to wear their Edgar's haircuts and dress the way they dress, you know. All them baggy pants, wearing oversized pants and all that. Yeah, they're not feeling that. Is that making them black? No, they're just evolving on a different trip. And yeah, Blue Devil mentioned, man, the kids, they don't want to hear it, man. They're doing their thing now, you know. And the one thing that they're doing the same that we were doing is they're hurting their own people and ending up in prison before they're fully developed and have graduated, been educated, been trained, and have a career or something to fall back on when they get out. So they end up doing years in prison, they get out, and they have no skills, you know. And it's hard enough getting a job, being an ex-con, but then when you don't have no skills and no education behind that, it's a recipe for failure, you know. And I think no matter how you talk, no matter how you dress, no matter how you're representing your neighborhood, if you're that determined to do those things, man, don't neglect other parts of your life, man. Like getting some training, you know, auto mechanic, whatever it is, you know, or get some college if your grades were good enough. And if you're still in school, in high school, man, work at it, man. Try to get some good grades. Maybe you get your foot in a junior college, because associate degree is better than no degree. All the degree is for is to show the people that are going to hire you that you're teachable, that you're able to learn and understand different concepts, you know. That's all it's for, you know. Until you get doing what you're going to do in your life as far as working goes, the degrees really don't do anything but get you in the door. You need the experience, the work experience, you know. But at least you have something to fall back on in case this gangster life doesn't work out for you. And it doesn't for most people. That's why older people like American Cholo, like myself, and even like Blue Devil, would advise you against going down that road, because we know what it leads to. We've been down that road. You know, if somebody was to tell you something, you want to hear it from somebody that's been down that road, so you know they know what they're talking about. You know, so although it is irritating, whenever things are changing, it's uncomfortable, and we don't like to hear it, and sometimes we don't like to admit it, but it's true. A lot of different people are adopting black culture as their own. Another thing, you know, you guys, man, I have to say this to these young gang members that are getting into black gangs, especially the ones that beef with other Mexican gangs. Your feet are going to be held to the fire one day for that, especially if you go out and unalive somebody because you're carrying a flag that belongs to a gang that's predominantly black. You know, you're going to be looked at different from your people for unaliving somebody from another neighborhood that's the same race as you. So I'd be very careful, man, making those type of decisions. If you haven't made them yet, I'd avoid that. Nothing racially about what I'm, it's nothing racist about what I'm telling you. I'm telling you about the way gang politics work, especially if you end up in prison, and that's where most people end up going through sometime in their gangster career, in their gang life. So, yeah, be careful with that, people. Anyways, yeah, as far as if and you know what, not to disagree with American Cholo, if we are losing that in the gang cultures, who cares? You know what I mean? What's more important is that we stop losing young lives, man, and we try to. Like Blue Devil said, man, the youngsters, they don't want to hear it. They're gonna be, man, you're too old. This is our time. This is our time to do our thing. That's a sorry truth. But even if we reach one person, two persons, just a few, maybe these videos were meant for you. You know what I mean? But anyways, I just wanted to do a little response on all of the stuff that was even touched upon during these two guys' conversation. It wasn't a conversation between the two, but with American Cholo's video and Blue Devil's reaction. I just wanted to touch on a few things that were mentioned in there and give my opinion. Anyways, thanks for watching. God bless you. God bless your family. Stay safe, people. Stay out of prison and from behind them bars, man. Let's stay free so we can enjoy our family and our freedom. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next video. Gracias.